The enemy of freedom. It's August 7th, 2026. Welcome to yes2hellwith.com. Man understands boundaries. We understand instructions and mandates. We understand when authority has been given to us and when it has not. A man can read a document, understand what it says, and govern his conduct accordingly. If a contract gives you authority to do one thing, you do not assume that it gives you authority to do all things. And if the organic law creates an office, delegates power to that office, and places limits upon those powers, a public official can understand that as well. That is where freedom begins, with a boundary. On one side is delegated government authority. On the other are the rights and freedoms of a free people. Life, liberty, property, privacy, conscience, family, speech, and the right to be let alone. Government receives authority for defined purposes. The individual retains freedom outside the lawful reach of that authority. So what destroys freedom? Human nature. Ignorance enters first. A man gains authority without understanding its source. He learns procedure, but not principle. Policy, but not limits. He learns how government operates, but not why government was limited. Then ego enters. The official begins to confuse possession of power with possession of wisdom. Because he can act, he believes he should act. Authority somewhere becomes assumed authority everywhere. And the boundary begins to move. A limitation becomes an inconvenience. An intrusion becomes procedure. Eventually, the official stops asking, "Do I have the authority to do this?" And he begins asking, "Can I get away with doing this?" That is the corruption. Ignorance distorts the boundary. Ego dismisses it. Power crosses the boundary, and the absence of character allows it to continue. That is how freedom is destroyed. Not because the Constitution vanished, not because rights ceased to exist, but because man, entrusted with authority, stopped honoring its limits. Paper cannot defend freedom. A constitution cannot rise from the page. Words can define the boundary, but only man can defend it. And that means freedom ultimately depends upon character, integrity, knowledge, humility, courage, especially courage, because the real test of a public servant comes when respecting the boundary costs him something, and maybe everything. Will he tell his superior no? Will he refuse an unlawful demand? Will he protect the rights of someone he dislikes? Will he risk his position rather than cross a line he has no lawful authority to cross? That is the person freedom requires. Someone capable of saying, "I have power, but my power ends here. I may disagree with you, but your rights do not depend upon my agreement. I may be ordered to act, but an order cannot create authority that does not exist." That is character. And character matters, especially at the local level, because government is an abstraction until man carries out the authority of government. A legislature acts, an agency issues a directive, a bureaucracy interprets it, but eventually somebody must enforce it. A police officer, prosecutor, regulator, a county official, a sheriff. Somebody ultimately decides whether government power will cross that divide and enter the life of a free people. And that is why the sheriff matters. Not because the sheriff stands above the law, because the right sheriff understands that he is beneath the law. He understands that authority is a trust, that power has limits, that the people possess rights that government did not give and cannot take away. And when power comes downstream, he is willing to ask, where is the authority? What is its scope? Where does it end? What right are we about to invade? And if lawful authority cannot be shown, no, we will not cross this boundary. That is not hostility toward government. That is limited government. And that is why constitutionalcounty.org exists, to find good men and women willing to serve as sheriffs in counties and parishes across America. Men and women who understand the organic law, who understand the boundary between public authority and freedom itself. Those who have the character to protect people, rights, freedom, and property, even when doing so comes at personal cost. Because power upstream can only reach the people when someone downstream agrees to carry it out. Imagine sheriffs across this country willing to stand at that boundary, not seeking more power, but restraining power, not asking what government can get away with, but asking what government has lawful authority to do, and no more. That is the message of constitutionalcounty.org. The enemy of freedom is ignorance joined with ego and armed with power, authority without understanding, power without humility, office without character. Freedom survives when good men and women are willing to stand at the divide. The boundary has already been drawn. Now we must find the people willing to defend it. County by county, parish by parish, sheriff by sheriff. Government has limits, the people have rights, and there are still good men and women willing to stand between the two. Go to constitutionalcounty.org, read the questions, read the sheriff's declaration, and if you have the knowledge, character, integrity, and courage to stand at that divide and to say no, then consider running. And as always, may truth reign supreme.